Ladies, gentlemen, and youth bowlers from around the world, welcome to the Kegel Show. My name is Don Agent, and we have an incredible guest this week with us, the CEO and Commissioner of the PBA Tour, Tom Clark. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to Skype with us.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure. It's always great to talk to you and to be able to get Skype to work on my machine. It's a great accomplishment already today.
I sometimes have issues with technology, so that's why I've got a crew of people here that kind of, dive through it and get me hooked up. I really want to jump right in the mix. I mean, we got some really cool things coming ahead, not just obviously with the PBA in general, but personally with Kegel. All of us here are absolutely thrilled about the move to Fox. And I was kind of curious, could you give your thoughts and maybe a few details and or benefits in regards to the new partnership?
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's really exciting. I mean, it's basically for fans and people that care about bowling, the partnership means three things for the PBA and for bowling. One, more bowling on TV, which that's a win.
Outstanding.
Two is we have, a whole new strategy and partnership on corporate sponsorship sales, which is really important, as everybody knows. And three, we'll have a whole new approach to how we present the sport. And I'll give you a few highlights of each one of those things. I mean, more bowling on TV. What do I mean? So in 2019, there'll be 60 hours of PBA action. Last year, there were 30.
Huge.
That's huge. In 2019, there will be 38 hours of live PBA action. Last year, there was 8.
See, and that's what I miss the most. Not to cut you off, but honestly, as a diehard, I miss just being able to watch that.
You want to feel it. So do we. I mean,
absolutely.
There was always kind of some weird, rumor type thing in the bowling world that we would want to be taped. We don't want to be taped ever. No. We want to be live. So we got 38 hours, 19 shows are live next year. And then the other big thing is that we'll have 10 hours. This deal with Fox Sports is for Fox and FS1. And there are going to be 10 hours on Fox, the big Fox, which is broadcast network television. And that's more than any year in 20 years. I mean,
that's what was huge for me. Come back to the network, obviously.
Right. The audience and the credibility, I think, that comes with that is huge. And to see a partner as big as Fox invest in bowling and the PBA like that should be special to everybody in the industry. So, that's kind of the highlights on the television part. On the sales part, Fox has invested in us for the right to sell into our programming. And that is, a major fundamental difference from the relationship we previously had. And so when you have a broadcast partner like Fox, who already has all these great relationships and a great sales, force, know that they've got to generate enough revenue against their investment in the PBA and bowling. That they're going to help to promote our shows more, work on our shows together with us, and they're going to want to sell. And that's a big difference from what we've done in the past. So that's the part that has the unlimited ceiling,
right?
Where if they're really successful, there's no telling where we can take this thing. So that's what I'm most excited about. And then on presenting the sport, for the first thing that I was excited about is, Rob Stone, who used to be our announcer on ESPN.
Absolutely.
He had a great following. He had moved to Fox, about 8-9 years ago. And it was a really sad day for me personally when he left to go to Fox, because I loved working with him on our shows.
Him and Randy seemed like they worked really good together. I remember talking to Randy, and he said, man, he loved the guy, and,
Oh, they had awesome chemistry. And so what's happened, though, in those 8 years that Rob went to Fox is he's become just a major star in sports broadcasting. I mean, he hosted the World Cup, and he hosts, all the college football that Fox does. He hosts all the college basketball, the Big East, and the stuff that Fox does. And he's a major face in broadcasting. So to have him be our lead announcer for bowling, there's a credibility there that is really, I mean, it's not, there'll never be Chris Schenkel again, but what Chris Schenkel did for bowling in that such a big name sports broadcaster was on the PBA.
Oh,
It meant
absolutely.
something. So to have Rob back is huge. And then, the next thing is all of the technical advancements that I think we're going to talk about here today that Fox wants to bring to our shows.
Well, that's kind of actually that'll roll right into to my next, kind of topic for the viewers. Obviously, there's some pretty internally exciting things for all of us here at our Kegel family going forward with Kegel and the PBA. Specto is now going to be on the television shows for the next 3 years. Is this kind of what I've heard from our CEO, Chris?
Yes, it is. I love it. And
what are
we've
your
been working.
thoughts and what on the system and what is that going to kind of bring to the viewers? I guess
Yeah.
a different experience.
Well, I've always loved the system, and I love cats.
Yes, absolutely.
This is kind of like cats on steroids.
Cats is more complicated to be out there to set up and have that all, from a portable standpoint.
Yeah, and this Specto it takes things up a notch,
Yeah.
and I've actually bowled using it at Kegel, and that was fun. It wasn't that fun. I had to see, I had to see how my lines were not really lining up, but it's an awesome system, and it will, it will bring the viewer closer to the game. It's kind of like it'll make the viewer almost feel like they're playing a video game when they're watching it. And that's critical to sports. Fox calls it, what they do to all sports that they broadcast, they call it Foxify, the broadcast. And so they want to bring all this technical stuff. When you watch golf and you see the ball tracker on the exactly. And when you watch NASCAR on Fox, they figured out ways to show how to draft behind the car in front of you and what that means. And they do it all with this technology. And so when we showed Fox Specto, they immediately said, we've got to have that. We've got to make this part of the telecast. And we always wanted it to be, but we just couldn't, we couldn't turn the lever to actually make it happen. We saw it, we just couldn't do it technically, and it's expensive. So now to be able to have a partner that's going to invest in that and make sure it happens, working with Kegel, working with Specto, I love it. I love it. It'll give the fans, a greater appreciation for what the best bowlers in the world are doing, and it'll give them a greater appreciation for how they're thinking and how great they are. And it'll also, it'll show when they mess up. And
that's the truth, because as I, for many years was able to stand behind the greatest bowlers in the world as a lanesman, and we tend to look at ball reaction a little bit differently than coaches and ball reps. There are a few different things we look at, but the public at times in today's society, I don't think they truly understand, because the graphics are not there to show how accurate these people are. To the point that the deviation in mile per hour for a Walter Ray is 0.1, a tenth of a mile. And we were looking at targeting, and it just, I think, it will kind of, bring that group of people that have never bowled in this environment to go, wow, these people are truly, they're striking a lot maybe, but they're splitting boards. And
they'll see that, and even the novice fan will just be able to then recognize that there's a lot more to the game than just how many pins did you knock down.
Yes.
And there's every board on the lane matters, and the way the oil is matters, and the ball that's being used matters, and the speed and the revolutions and the accuracy. Every single element in that whole puzzle is comes to life. And most people can identify with that because of things like video games nowadays that are so advanced.
Absolutely.
And you have to be dialed in on all these different elements in order to succeed. And it's really exciting. And these guys that are putting it together, people like Orr, at Kegel and Specto, they are so smart. I can't deal with they're over my head. I can't even deal with the intelligence level, and they all have the same passion for bringing out what makes bowling great. Bowling is fun to play because of all of these things.
Right.
And sometimes you could think, well, for a regular viewer, maybe they're bored or watching bowling or something. But once they can feel, even if it's through this type of technology, exactly all of the elements of what goes into the game, I think they'll have they'll be closer to it, have a better appreciation for it, want to go bowl themselves and learn all about all these different things. So, people seem to be, a lot of times we used to debate, do people want something to be more simple or more involved?
Sure.
And how do you attract viewers and how do you attract longtime fans? And I think where we all come down now is more involved. People
Yes, I agree.
like to dive, they have to geek out on whatever they're really interested in. So we want people to just be so geeked out on bowling that they are ready to come back next week. They learn which players they want to follow, and a lot of it will be based on the skills that they show through Specto.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, y'all have done an amazing job with the PBA. Obviously, yourself and your team for a number of years, and since it had changed hands so many years ago, we're also very thrilled. On top of all these other cool things that are going on, but we're getting the PBA Clash down here to be hosted right in the Kegel Training Center, and this is the first actually official show of Fox. My owner and mentor, or our owner and my mentor, John Davis, would be thoroughly proud to if he was alive, to be able to say, wow. He would get really stoked. I remember the 1997 Greater Sebring Open, which was his first PBA tournament that we'd had as a company, and he was just on cloud nine. Can you tell the audience a little bit about this specific event?
Yeah, well, and we all miss John. We were there. I don't know if you were there. I can't remember, but we were there about 10 years ago at Kegel for the King of Bowling series.
Yes, because that was Wes Malott. I came in, I think, the last day. I was on the road and had come back, but Wes Malott averaged like 260 or something.
Yeah, he bowled 2 300s.
Yeah.
And, people still call him the King of Bowling. It's people still talk about that series. And so we were overdue to come back. And we were there because of John, and it was a lot of fun. Mike Wilbon, the famous sportscaster, I remember he came, and sports writer, I remember he came and bowled against Wes Malott at Kegel, and that was a cool series. And they talked about it for like 3 straight weeks on PTI on ESPN.
Cool.
So that was a lot of fun. And so, yeah, it's overdue that we would come back. But actually, the way that show came about, this PBA Clash show, was we had already finalized our 2019 schedule on Fox and FS1. And the network came to me and said that they had a window open on Fox for December 23rd as part of their NFL Sunday. So, Fox, some weeks they have a doubleheader, some weeks they have a single header football game. So that's a week they have one game. So they had a window either before or after that game.
Wow.
Depending on the country, on the part of the country that you're in. And so that's an awesome opportunity.
Huge.
It was outside of my it was outside of my budget. I'd already budgeted out the whole year, and as great as everything is, it's still tight. We still have to make things work, and you still have to balance everything. So it was a little bit challenging in my mind whether I could do it or not. But it was a no-brainer. We're gonna make it work because you don't give up a slot like that. It's gonna have a great rating and be a great way to launch the PBA on Fox. So it just needed to be a special show. It wasn't going to be just a regular tournament. It needed to be a special show. So we came up with this, what I think is a really compelling event and format. It's kind of like a all-star game, home run derby, type of thing, where we're going to bring in the top 8 players in 2018 earnings. And we went back to borrow a format that we've been using the past 10 years in some special events, like the Chris Paul event, where all those 8 players will engage in rounds of eliminations based on one shot, with the low score each round being eliminated, kind of like a survivor.
I love it.
And then the last 2 standing will bowl a full game for to take all the money. It'll be $25,000 for winner take all. And so it's going to be really exciting, but the show is also going to, really serve as a chance for us to introduce our top players to the Fox audience. And we're going to preview the whole 2019 season. So during that show, we'll say, we start the 2019 season January 6th from Arlington with the Hall of Fame Classic, and here's how the season rolled. And then we're going to also have our Player of the Year and our Rookie of the Year awards be awarded at that show, right there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so they'll be here. They'll get their trophies, and then and being able to hold it at Kegel will give us a chance to really try out Specto, and know that everything's ready to go there, and all the other, there's so many other cool things that Kegel has from a training and standpoint that we're going to be able to really toy around with a bunch of different things there, and so we're going to tape it on December 10th,
Okay.
right there at Kegel. And we really just hope to pack the place with crazy fans. We hope the whole Weber, the whole Weber
Team, yeah, exactly. The college team
comes, and I think of them as international because so many kids come in from all over the world for that program. But
exactly.
But I'm really hoping that they're all there and can really enjoy it. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I've already given some special advance notice out to a couple of select people in my life to let them know that I'll have some arranged room for them on that date, without a doubt. The top 8 look pretty solid. Now, unless this has changed in the last 2 weeks, from what I was following, I mean, it almost looked like it's almost half and half. We've got half two-handers, half what I guess we'll call traditional players. I know all of them personally to some degree, but the talent is incredible up there.
Yeah, it'll be a fun show. I was actually just looking at it, and the top 8 right now are Belmo, Simonson, Barrett, Anthony Simonson, Dom Barrett from England, Andrew Anderson, who won the Masters, really exciting young kid. I'm very familiar with Kegel.
Right.
Kyle Troop, who's become one of the great personalities in PBA Tour.
Great ambassador.
He's awesome. He's awesome to watch, and all fans just flock to him. EJ Tackett, and who's like already qualified for the Hall of Fame by age 25, and Marshall Kent and Bill O'Neill. So those are the 8 now. But then right outside the 8, Jesper.
I was going to say, wasn't Jesper Svensson in that run at some point? Yeah.
Yeah, he's right there. He's 9th right now. Jacob Buttriff, who, and then and Tom Smallwood is creeping up. And there's a bunch of people, because there's still 2 major events to go in order to decide this top 8. The fall swing that's going to be on Flow Bowling in October, and then the U.S. Open. So there's a lot of opportunities for people to move into that top 8. But I think no matter what, it's going to be a great field.
Well, I'm going to be thrilled to be here personally on site, so it's always kind of, we're spoiled, obviously, because we work here, so I'll get to see it firsthand. I got to, I asked this question of every guest that's on here. We didn't get into a lot of it, but you have bowling background. You bowled in college. I mean, you've been around bowling for a long time in your life. Do you have any advice as a player and as an observer of our sport, and at the highest level, obviously? I mean, you're the commissioner and CEO of the PBA. For our up-and-coming youth on, just one piece of advice to follow, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've had a great opportunity to watch these guys up close. I mean, and you see and you learn, how they approach the game, and trying to get kids to understand is difficult without just watching. I mean, that might be the first tip I would say, is to watch as much as possible and go on YouTube and watch these guys compete. And then if you ever have the chance to see them in person, to go watch. But I think the things that I've noticed, the 2 or 3 things are that I would tell any kid is to keep their individuality. You don't have to, there's not one way to bowl. As
Great
you can
answer.
see on that top 8. I mean, you have to really be the best you. It's not try to be Belmo. It's not try to be Norm Duke. It's not try to be how can you be Jacob Buttriff? Nobody can throw like that.
Correct.
Jesper Svensson, he came out of nowhere with his own style. He throws the most powerful strike ball I've ever seen. I think everybody throughout history, the greats, have all had just their style, not one they borrowed from somebody else. And so I'd keep that. And I think during events, it's almost cliche, but to never quit. You just never stop, and always try to keep putting that puzzle, which we were talking about earlier, together, and believing that, that next shot is going to turn into a string that never ends.
Yeah.
Man, and I talk about Belmo. I've seen him do that for the last 8 years, 8 or 9 years, just over and over again, where you say, well, he's lost, and then all of a sudden he bowls 300 the next game.
I watched that kid overseas when he was truly a teenager, bowling for Australia with Jared Lean and Brandon Kolachevsky and that group of kids over there. And I watched him literally, go 150, 180, 300, 260, 240, 250. I mean, just, that's outstanding.
I've had a chance to bowl with Norm Duke and watch Norm Duke up close, and he's just fighting, constantly fighting to find it, and that's why he practices everything, so he's versatile enough so that he has enough tools in his bag so that whatever comes up, he's going to fight, and that's the attitude or the focus that you need. That's what I would tell kids. So.
That is outstanding advice, actually. I love asking that question because we get a lot of different answers. That was probably two of the most in-depth and I'd say top 5 I've had, not just because we're interviewing with you. You get don't miss spares and these types of things, but the individuality thing I love completely. Tom, I can't thank you enough, man, for joining us on this Skype call today and for this show, and I really wish you and your family all the best and can't wait to see you here in a couple of months, essentially.
I can't wait, and I can't even let you go without thinking of your new boss, Chris Chartrand, who is a great guy and someone that I've always had a great relationship with. Someone that whenever there's a national convention or bowl expo or anything like that, I always make a point of hooking up with him, just to talk bowling, to talk football, to talk business. Anything, and we always kind of search for ways to work together. And so these two things, Specto and hosting an event there, are a great way to start. And I called him with these opportunities, and given our new relationship with Fox, and he made it happen. He made it happen with both of them. And I think that would be another area where, if I ever can give people advice in business, and like the kids that go to school there, is that relationships are really, really the most important thing. I mean, because when you can build a relationship and build trust, even when you're not working together, and even when you're not doing anything together for years, when that moment comes, big decisions, can be made quickly, and that's a great example here. And I know this stuff's all going to work out and be fantastic. So big shout out to Chris and everybody there at Kegel for their willingness to work with us.
I couldn't have said that any better. I think the world of him, and I've been around him half his life now on Earth, essentially, because he's been here 20 years, and he was very young when he started. He's taught me a tremendous amount. Before I close out, listen, we had our IT guy and dear friend Bob Ford come in, and I know you're kind of a Boston Red Sox fan, essentially, so we got a little Fenway Park, little snow globe up here, and I don't remember who this was. Is it, he had mentioned the autograph, but we got an autographed baseball from one of the Boston Red Sox. And again, Tom, thanks a bunch, man, for taking time out. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap.
I can't even let you go when you bring up the Boston Red Sox. If I told the 12-year-old me that I was a Boston Red Sox fan, I'd probably beat myself up, because I grew up a Yankee fan. I grew up in New York. I grew up a Yankee fan. I hated the Red Sox, but I love the Red Sox now for one reason: Mookie Betts. He is the best player on that team. And he is a great bowler. He's already been in the World Series, because he's been at the World Series of Bowling, where he bowled a 300 game.
Yes.
And that's another thing you learn through life when you get older, is if you become friends with someone, you're a fan of that person. So for me to want the Red Sox to win because of Mookie Betts over the Yankees, that tells you the power of relationships, right?
That's impressive, man.
And bowling.
Great point. I agree with you, man. One of my favorites that I think back of is I got to meet way back when was Jerome Bettis. He would bowl in Pennsylvania at some of those events, and the fact that Mookie, I mean, being obviously the athlete he is in his professional sport, but also being able to go into a PBA event and shoot a 300. I mean, that's just not, that crossover doesn't happen a lot, as you know. without a doubt.
I think he'll be, he's going to be a pretty wealthy young man, and you have a long-term contract, and I'm sure he's going to put bowling lanes in his house.
In his house. I was
And
thinking
I'm
the
sure
same.
he's gonna need one of those machines. So, we'll try to get him down to Kegel here one of these days pretty soon. Hopefully at our event.
Mr. Betts, if you're listening to this, I'm actually a pretty good mechanic. I've been here a long time. I'll be more than happy to put that machine in for you. Tom, take care,
Thanks a
buddy.
lot.
Thanks again. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap. Keep those wrenches turning. Have a wonderful day.